Greetings and welcome to the outside lab. Um, well, I'm actually in the middle of working on some painting stuff for the Halloween ideas, and I wanted to give you an update on kind of what this process is looking like. So, this is one of those two skulls. It was super shiny. I managed to hit it with some primer. Let me show you the primer real quick. This is, if I can get it in frame, this is what I've been using. I bought it because it's actually not so much because it's an automotive, because it's filler and primer in one. And the idea being I wanted to build up some of my 3D prints, which have texture to them because I print at low quality. And I wanted to see, can I use a filler sort of thing to take care of those imperfections that come with low quality? And that way I can print faster and then just spray paint them and be done. But it's not exactly working out that way. It's not the high build primer, and I don't know if that's specifically what I need. But this primer has worked out really nicely. I mean, you can see that the cap matches what I've got there. This particular skull that I was working on, I had tried sanding off the original coating that was on there, which was a really shiny coating. I'll put a link to the video where I showed you these originally. And I realized that I didn't need to actually do that because this primer does stick really well, at least so far. And so that has worked out. So what I did was, since I had already sanded and kind of messed it up, I've now put the primer on and then resanded up to about 1,000 grit, so it's nice and smooth and I can paint it. Let me show you what the painted version looks like, because I've already done one. And this is the painted version. For that I used an almond gloss, and I think that's a pretty good representation of the human skull, trying to get the coloration kind of right. The only thing is I don't really want it that glossy, so I do have some clear matte spray paint or some clear semi-gloss, so I can experiment with that. But before I do that, what I'm going to do is go get some more painting supplies, some acrylic paints, and I'm going to try and do kind of a rub on this. And what that should hopefully do, oh wow, I'm just noticing that I can really see the seam now. I can't see it on this one, so maybe I do need to go back and actually sand down a little bit here so that it doesn't show the seam quite so extremely. Wow, okay, that's unfortunate. That's a little bit more work, but that's part of the experimentation, learning this stuff. As I was saying, I have clear matte and clear semi-gloss, so I can put those on. But before I do that, what I want to get is some more art supplies, acrylic paint specifically, and maybe a set of brushes, so that when you rub it on and then rub it right back off again, if you do it right, you end up leaving stuff in these little cracks here. And so that should then kind of accentuate it and make it a bit more sort of 3D and a bit more realistic. That's the hope. The mouth is going to be interesting to work with. But I should be able to get some dark spots in the nose here and in the eyes. And then I have an idea for sticking some lights in here that'll make it that much easier. Of course, I'm going out and getting supplies on the fly, so I don't know if this is going to be timely enough for you to be able to do the same thing for Halloween, unless you just start buying everything that I'm talking about right now. I got these at the dollar store, and they were shiny. So that's kind of the idea. That's what I'm working on. I got a few other pieces that I'm working on, and I'll show you in a moment the sanding that I'm doing, because I've got some smaller skulls, much smaller skulls, and I don't think it's easy to make a mold that gives you that much detail on the smaller ones. So I'm going to end up doing a lot more sanding on those. So I've already primed 4 of them, and I'm going to go ahead and go up and go back to the lab and start sanding. And just like that, I'm back in the lab. And we've got these 4 little ones, and you can clearly see the seam that they molded it with. Thankfully, it's not running right through the face. So I think all I got to do is do a little bit of sanding. Let's see. We'll start with the 400 grit. We'll see if that gets us anywhere. Otherwise, I have to go down to 120 and work my way up. Well, let's just see. And I do have my magnifier light here just to help me see what I'm doing. What do you think? Is the lighting a little bit better? I've been having a bit of a problem with the lighting, and it seems like it's just way too green. I've switched up again. And take a little bit of work to get it. Might have to go to the files to get in some of the little areas. Well, it's definitely better. There's a pronounced ridge here. I'm not too worried about the bottom, but let's see. Now it's taking off the primer. Probably could have done this before priming. And let's get his forehead. His forehead, her forehead. I don't know if you can tell from the skull. Probably. Let me try it this way. It definitely feels a bit smoother. Not perfect. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to have to sand down until the primer goes away. Then I can see that I've clearly got both sides of it. You know, I'm going to do it in a circular motion. That'll leave. I don't know. I think that works a little bit better. That's definitely better right there. But I'm kind of wondering about, yeah, because I can see these ridges here. I'm going to need to do that with files. So let me show you that. This is the set of diamond files I have. They're not super expensive. But let's see. I think there's one with the, not the rounded edge. I want kind of a triangular. Like that. And then I can go like that. Get in from one side, turn it slightly and get the other side. I am not an expert in props or anything like that. I just wanted to learn how to do this, and I'm showing you what I'm learning here. It doesn't have to be perfect. I don't even know if I'm going to put these models in the display for Halloween. I just wanted to use them to practice on, and if I'm going to make mistakes, this would be the place to make it. It was like a bag of 8 for $1.25. It wasn't expensive, but it's going to require a certain amount of detail, and that's going to teach me things. Yeah, I think that kind of works. There are more details I need to concern myself with. Like I said, the rest of the face seems to be fine. Looks like I sanded off the tip of his nose. And so then it's back to sanding like this. Now I got the sandpaper I ordered online as a set. It's not a whole lot of sandpaper, but I've got from 400 up through 3,000. So it makes for, I could really fine tune things if I want to. So that should give you the idea of what I'm trying to do here. I'm going to try and keep going with this, and I think we'll pick up again with me continuing the spray job outside. I've already noticed that the ones that I just sprayed outside there was some kind of paint reaction in a couple of places on one of those skulls, so I may have to figure out what happened there and probably do some more touch up. And so if you do decide you want to get into something like this, if you just somehow got caught up in this video, I will tell you that a lot of this stuff, that the primer will dry pretty quickly, but the top coat takes, a good 24 hours to really cure before you do much with it. So you do want to consider that if you give yourself a week to do a project just because you're going to have to do a lot of drying time, there may be ways of drying it faster, and that's something for me to learn. But I've been wanting to do, with some of the models I work on, I've been wanting to do better paint jobs. And so this is how I'm kind of teaching myself, is with the Halloween display. So next up will be, I guess, back outside looking at the damage and figuring out what it's going to take to fix it. It occurs to me that I didn't show you what they looked like before painting, and so I've actually gone and smoothed them out. The third one there has a much more pronounced sort of ridge, but what I'm going to try and do this time, instead of priming and then painting, is just go straight to the paint. I'm running low. I want to make sure I can actually finish it. I'm going to go ahead and get that done. The other thing is I'm worried that the filler primer that I'm using is actually removing some of the detail. So I'm going to see if that makes it any better. But I still find it kind of funny that this is the best way to paint them on pikes. Let's see what happens. I shook it more than that. Wish me luck. Yeah, they're dripping. Not what I intended. Trying to do it quickly. I got other things to do. But there we go. They are now painted. I'm going to put them out to dry, and we'll see what that ends up looking like. And this is what they ended up looking like. You can leave them on their pikes and take a picture and maybe use AI to generate something like this.
And this could happen to you.
Or you can take them off one by one and evaluate. And still kind of seems to be missing some detail, but maybe it's just the shininess of the gloss paint that's throwing me off. That one looks reasonable. The whole thing with the dripping seems to have resolved itself. Yeah, the nose cavity is not going to be the greatest, but that's what that one looks like. And I've got 4 more, if I can remember where I put them. This whole process is taking me time, so yeah, that one, the ridge is still kind of prominent, but that's after sanding. That's what those look like. Found them. And yeah, it's a JLC PCB box for PCBs, which is something else I do. But let's see, we got that one. Yeah, honestly, it looks like the nasal cavity is the only real problem. But I got 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, now I'm going to have a box full of skulls that I'm going to paint. And we'll get to that soon enough. But I think this particular episode's already starting to get long. So stay tuned and we'll come back and do some painting and some real experimentation to figure out how this is going to come out and how I can work with the larger skulls. I haven't got a whole lot of time left before Halloween, but I wanted to get this done, finish the video, and post it up so people can see it. It's just the simple, tiny skulls I got from the dollar store. Ultimately sanded down just to get the ridges off the top so they're not as pronounced anyway. You don't have to be perfect about it, but you want to get rid of most of it just so it doesn't distract. And some of these were painted with primer and some of them went straight to the top coat. I'm going to try and get some paint on, and we'll see that in the next episode. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching.